Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
We welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Thursday, February 4th. I'm Gary Stevens. First Thursday of the month, we catch up with one of the leading lawmen in our area. He is the sheriff of Allegan County. He joins us on the other end of our Zoom connection from his offices in the Allegan County Sheriff's Department headquarters in the county seat. It is Frank Baker. Frank, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary.
Glad you are with us. And if you have a question for Frank, you'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Let's start off with what we started off with before the segment began. A winter weather advisory, 4 o'clock this afternoon, 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Depending on the track of the storm, Frank, up to 8 inches is possible. A lot of it is lake effect snow, and Allegan gets its good share of lake effect snow as anybody. It's been a couple of years since we had, maybe a clobbering such as this, and hopefully everybody will be ready for it so that the Allegan County Sheriff's Department and first responders don't have to go after stranded motorists because of being ill-prepared, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I guess we've been fortunate that we've dodged that bullet so far this winter, but it looks like it is headed this way. And so we would just ask your listeners to, obviously, if there's opportunities to get what they need to get done out and about today, maybe do it now before this afternoon. If you can avoid the roadways once they do get hit hard with the snow and the blowing snow, and that's really one of the biggest issues is the blowing snow. And how we can end up, as you know, M40, it's regularly traveled, can be rather treacherous there north of Hamilton. The wind seems to blow across there and seems to cause a lot of problems for us. And over the years, you kind of learn to identify those areas. And while we have them on the west side, we have them on the east side as well, north of Door on the freeway on 131. It just seems like every year we might as well just park and wait because we know it's going to happen. And if you can do your part to make sure that you can avoid driving in that storm, it definitely does us a favor and helps us be able to respond to the other myriad of different things that will be happening during storms like that.
How much of a concern is it that we're saying winter weather advisory, 4 to 8 inches, blowing and drifting, maybe an inch an hour, and travel will be difficult at best? It's almost as if we're barking, doom, gloom, and snowmageddon, and yet, by the time it happens, it's like, oh, come on, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, I know it's the boy who cried wolf type situation, but unfortunately, sometimes, and more often than not, we're getting to the point where the prognosticators are more accurate, getting more and more accurate with each passing year.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I know we watch the news as well, and we're like, they call for a storm and it doesn't happen, and we start to feel the same way as well. But every once in a while they do hit it right, and that does create problems, and it's even worse when they didn't predict it. But like I say, now they have predicted it, so I know my wife's already told me on the way home, make sure you stop and get the necessities that we're going to need in case we don't want to leave the house over the weekend. So that's what I'll be doing, I know, and hopefully everybody will be doing the same to try to do your part to kind of to stay off the roads if that prediction does come true.
I remember, I don't know if I told it with you or not. I know I've mentioned before a few years ago when I was asked by the Michigan High School Athletic Association at the last minute, hey, we need a broadcaster to do the wrestling over at, not wrestling. Yeah, was wrestling over at Kellogg Arena, Battle Creek. And I had to make my way from Holland to Battle Creek. And it was kind of nasty around these parts. And and M40 was blocked off. And it's like, I just got to get to Allegan. Once I get to Allegan, I'm A-OK. And I went across and down the county road that connects Hudsonville with Allegan. I finally got there. And I know about the M40 situation and how treacherous it can be. 395-1450, 395-1450. If you have a question for Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker, and certainly road safety paramount as we get into some nasty weather. But the nasty weather, I know our ice fishing friends are saying, we've been waiting for this. We've been waiting to get temperatures that get only into the teens, to get that hard freeze on those inland lakes especially. But ice safety becomes very much of a factor as more and more of our ice fishing friends want to indulge in their pastime. And as Peg mentioned in some of the newscasts today, we've had, I think, 8 snowmobile incidents where they go into the water. Yeah, use your heads, folks.
Yeah, we've had a few reports of some of those things as well over this way, and obviously we see a lot of it over on Gun Lake, which we share with our county to the east, Berry County. But one of the things I just wanted to kind of bring up, and we kind of do this every year or so, is just to remind everybody that even though it's February, we still need to check the ice and not just assume that it's safe to go out on. Just because you were out there last year, the 1st of February, doesn't mean it's safe this year. So don't use the calendar, use the actual methods for checking the ice to make sure it's safe. So bring a spud along or an auger and check the ice to make sure it's safe before you go out on it. And just as a reminder, if you're going to be out on the ice, you're looking for about 4 inches of ice before you're out there walking on it, and about 5 to 6 inches for a snowmobile or an ATV. And, we don't see a lot of cars out on the ice here, but I know people do go up north in places where, you're looking for at least a foot of ice before you start getting out there with a vehicle, and even more for some of the larger vehicles. But you're looking for strong ice.
And the thing is, with the large vehicles, and then we'll get a call and we'll continue with the tips. We're talking about a vehicle that is at least 2 tons. And you need to have some of that weight to be able to carry 2 tons. Yeah, question, I hope, for Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker. Good morning. You're on Talk of the Town.
Good morning. This is a very sensitive issue, Mr. Baker. I heard of a case of a young woman who said that she had been raped. And I'm wondering what your protocol on rape is. And she was told either by you or someone in your office that she was lying. And if this is the way it's done, it's insensitive to say the least.
All right, we'll get his response, Sheriff.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything like that that either obviously that I've handled for sure, or that any of our people are involved in. And typically, like you say, we have a lot of protocols for how those cases are investigated. I investigated those types of cases for many years, and there's even some things statutorily that you can't do with those types of cases. So I'm not sure exactly the situation you're referring to, and if you could have that person contact us, we could probably see if that can be resolved if there's some kind of misunderstanding or something. But I don't know. I'm certainly not aware of the situation myself.
Thank you.
I appreciate the call. 395-1450. Before we get back to the ice situation, when there is a question of deputy misconduct in your department, not misconduct, but maybe accusations such as this, without going too much into technical detail, Frank, what is the procedure for a person to say, hey, this happened. I did not get the proper treatment from the deputies, or there might have been some misconduct by the deputies. What is the process so that it can be investigated independently, accurately, so that not only the department is taken care of, but also the complainant is taken care of?
We have a very thorough procedure for handling any types of complaints of misconduct. If it's something they think it's a procedural thing, maybe they could have done something differently. Obviously, they make contact with the supervisor. The supervisor discusses the situation, determines if it's something that warrants a more formalized complaint, or if it's something that it was just somebody misunderstood something, they would resolve it. But if it's something of a misconduct in nature, we have a citizen complaint form that's completed by the individual and submitted to us. We assign an investigator to that. If it's something that appears as though it's a violation of maybe internal policy, it's something that we would hand in internally with an investigator of that. And then what happens is then that's submitted to our well, we have a hearing board. Basically, we bring in a group of different individuals to look at the accusation, hear the evidence, hear the investigation, and then make a determination as to what's appropriate. If it's something that could be considered criminal, we bring in either the Michigan Sheriff's Association investigator or an outside agency, so that there isn't any perception that maybe we would be not investigating our own. So yeah, we have a very robust policy for dealing with any type of situation like that, and we do take those situations very serious because one of the things that for us to be effective and successful as a police agency is we have to have the trust of the community. So we have a policy and a procedure like that, so that we don't do anything to erode that trust, so that we can continue to be the type of agency we want to be and provide the services we want to provide.
Reminds me, and I'm showing my age, but that's okay. One of the early stories when Dragnet was rebooted by Jack Webb and Harry Morgan in 1967, one of the more poignant early stories was basically a 2-3-man story, 3-actor story. Kent McCord, who eventually was with Adam 12, a Jack Webb show, but McCord played an officer that was accused of some misconduct, and Jack Webb had to do the internal investigation. And it dramatized it, but it showed how that department in the 60s handled it, and it gave it a glimpse. Yes, I know, dramatic glimpse, but still situations such as that. And I was thinking about that as you were explaining your department's policy, Sheriff Baker. 395-1450, 395-1450. If you have a question for Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker, he'll be happy to answer it. We were discussing before the call, Frank, some of the ice safety tips about checking for safe ice with a vehicle. Other things that you can check for ice, some of the other tips that you have to be able to make sure if those who wish to do some ice fishing can do so safely.
Yeah, look at the ice itself. If you're looking at a clear looking bluish tinted ice, that's going to be strong ice. If it's the kind that's slushy on top and it's honeycombed, that's going to be very weak, and it's going to be about half as strong as good clear ice. And one of the things you want to do is avoid areas where there's objects protruding from the ice. So if you're walking out near a dock or something, stay clear of those areas, because the ice is going to be weaker around those areas where stuff is protruding. And you always want to check for dock bubblers and things where they're intentionally trying to keep the ice from freezing in those areas. And just as a general rule, tell someone what your plans are, especially if you're going to be out ice fishing alone or out on the ice alone. Make sure somebody knows where you're going, when you plan on being back. And oftentimes people we're seeing are considering life jackets and float coats. And we have those life jackets you can wear that you can inflate in case they do fall in. And then the other thing is to be prepared in case that does happen. Have a nice safety kit with you. Carry some rope. I've seen these, and you can make them or you can buy them, but they're little ice picks that you can hold on to in your hands, and you can run them through your jacket so that they're available to you, that you can use to pull yourself back up on the ice if you should happen to fall through. Carry a whistle with you so that you can kind of get someone's attention if you should happen to fall in. But in the worst case scenario, in the event that something happens and you do fall in, the first thing you want to do is not panic. You want to be able to call out for help if there's people nearby. Don't remove your winter clothing. The trapped air inside can provide some warmth and flotation possibly. And you want to turn toward the direction of where you came. If you came from one direction, that ice was safe. It got you to that point. So if you're going to pull yourself back up on, try to pull yourself back up on in the direction that you came from.
But that might be easier said than done, Frank, because in a situation like that, very easily person can get disoriented and not remember which direction you're coming from. And especially if it's in the evening or, under very cloudy conditions, it's a little bit easier. Maybe the sun, hey, the sun was to my left, I'm down, just turn around, make sure the sun's to my right. But when it's cloudy, or if it's at dusk or dawn, it makes it a little tougher.
For sure. So try to keep your bearings about you, because it could be helpful. The thing you're going to want to do is obviously get back up onto the ice. So what you can do is, if you bring and use those ice picks that I referred to, you can kind of use those to pound into the ice and then pull yourself up. And then just like swimming, kick your legs, kick your feet. You're going to try to propel yourself up onto the ice. And then once you do, and you can get up onto the ice, lay flat. Don't just have the urge to stand up right away and run off for help. You want to lie flat and roll away from the hole, because that'll distribute your weight more evenly and allow you to maybe get away from that weak spot. So that's very important, is to try to roll away from the hole and not just stand right up, because if you stand right up, there's a good chance you're going to break right through again. And once you get away from the hole, obviously the first thing you want to do is get somewhere warm, get some dry clothing, and if necessary, seek medical attention, because hypothermia is a very dangerous thing. Unfortunately, nearly every winter we see somebody that dies of hypothermia. Oftentimes it's not from this type of situation. To tell you the truth, it's oftentimes from drug overdoses and things, where people they're overdosing and they have a sensation of feeling warm and hot, and they go outside. They actually strip down and go outside, and then we find them unfortunately deceased. So hypothermia is dangerous. Make sure you get medical attention if you do fall in. And then there's some tips for how you rescue someone if you happen to be there and see somebody go into the ice. And there's kind of a little thing that I found that online that I thought was very helpful in remembering. It's called preach, reach, throw, row, and go. And the preach is, you see somebody, you shout out to that victim to reassure them that that you're there, that you're going to get help, and that that help is on the way. Reach. If you can reach out to them from shore or from on a dock or somewhere to extend them, anything to help pull them out of the water. The best things are things like ladders, but they're not always available, obviously. But you can use anything like a snow shovel, rope, jumper cables, anything that you can get to them so that they can hold on to and you can help pull them out is what you want.
And in that situation, Frank, don't go out into the water yourself, because sometimes, you're saying, this person's about 15 feet out and I can't throw or something like that. So I'm going to have to go out a little bit. And then all of a sudden, once there's a break in the ice, it weakens the other ice around it. So that becomes weaker, and then you get further and further cracks.
Yep. And that's, we have a saying in law enforcement, and we, when you're training new officers, obviously it's exciting when you're running with the lights and the sirens on and you're going faster than normal. And the thing is, when there's an emergency and somebody needs help, the instinct is to get there as quick as you can. But what we instill in our people is, if you don't get there safely, you're not helping anyone. And that's the number one rule, is you got to do it safely yourself, because you can take one tragedy and turn it into two. And you can take one rescue and turning it into need for two rescues.
Yeah. And
so
of course,
you want to be safe.
And of course, you don't want to, say, well, risk, reward. Well, sometimes the reward just isn't worth it for the risk.
Well, like you say, it's just that whole deal of turning, one situation into a worse situation. So you want to be able to do it safely. So if you can't get them out there, reach to them, throw them something like a rope. If you can throw a rope out to them. And then the other thing is row. So we got our preach, reach, throw, and row. One of the great things that we use and teach people for ice rescues is, if you can find a small rowboat and you push the rowboat out ahead of you, so that if something does happen, the ice breaks, you jump in the boat. You can, and that boat will distribute the weight, and then you can get that boat out to where the hole is, and the person and you can sit in the boat then, and then pull them up onto the bow of that boat. That's going to be a more safer way of reaching out to them. And then the last one is go. And that's exactly what you mentioned, Gary. If you can't get out to them safely and reach them safely, is go. You got to go get help. You got to get someone who's, the fire department, or people that are going to be able to do a water rescue on that type of ice. So it's to call 911, or if you don't have a phone with you, run for help and get somebody that can. And because we definitely don't want to turn one rescue need into two.
I got time for one more question, and hopefully it's not too much out of left field. But it's been a couple of years. It will be a couple of years since the Allegan County Sheriff's Department took over policing duties in the city of Saugatuck. And let's put it this way. Is this the case? I think more than anything else, Frank, no news is good news. And it looks like Brett Ansfield and the officers assigned to Saugatuck have done a nice job.
I've been hearing nothing but compliments on the efforts that our deputies have been doing down there. I think was an opportunity for us to be involved in the community, and I think the community appreciates the efforts that they put forth. And obviously, it's something that we're proud of, that they're able to provide that service, and it seems to be going well.
The reason why I brought that up is, yes, I know it started in the middle of the year, a couple of years ago, but yet, we haven't talked about it that much, and it's been a pretty good thing. But that also leads to the point, and we've talked about it before, and things have moved along where it's going to push back a little bit. But the Allegan County Sheriff's Department funding is still an issue, and you'd love to be able to say, hey, we've got some more funding, we can be able to do more things. But unfortunately, that hasn't been the reality yet. It hasn't been, Sheriff.
No, but I think we've turned a major corner, and we've been slowly making progress in that regard. And I know in the last couple of years we've been able to slowly increase some of our staffing levels. Our goal is obviously to get back to what we once were. At one point, we had more deputies on the road, and we had more deputies doing a lot of the other functions that we think are important, like being involved in the schools, providing services like domestic violence investigation. We've currently still have we have investigators assigned specifically to doing the sex crimes and different things, because those specialized types of crimes require some specialized training, and so we want to be able to provide the full spectrum of services. And so, yeah, we're hoping to continue that movement forward towards those goals.
Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Talk of the Town. Wish you and the department well over the next month. Let's do this again in March, shall we?
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.